poor performance on the Jin the first time they met. But still not going to see the Heimerdinger. I really want to see the Heimerdinger.
You're not going to get the Heimerdinger, man. No one's ready for the Hjarnendonger. It's just too much. You're not going to see the Varus either, though, or the Tom Pit. G2 Esports have committed, Spawn. They say, I am sorry, Supermassive, your bot lane does not get to participate in the way that they want to. You get back on that Caitlyn, you wait for your 3 items, and you'll participate then.
Wow. That's real rude. We're sitting here talking up about the bottom lane, how they're going to get some priority picks, they're going to be able to take over this game, and already they just say no.
No, Comfort taken off the board, across the board, and now this opens up so many of those power picks in the top lane. Supermassive cannot ban it really in the way, but if you ban Urgot, you're giving Wonder his Aatrox.
That's fine.
Did you watch Rift Rivals Spawn? Wonder kills people on that champion. Grim state to be in.
Oh, there's just no good answers.
But the comfort priority for G2 makes a ton of sense because now Wonder is going to get one of those top lane carries, and Supermassive are forced back into the Aatrox Urgot top lane matchup.
Maybe they go Aatrox Akali. I mean, that's the potential, right? You try and say, they got the best pick, we get the next 2 best picks. Let's see what we can make work here. They talk so much about holding GBM's counter pick, however, so, you know, probably not going to go towards it.
What if that counter pick gets banned out?
Kai'Sa,
Prioritized.
Braum.
What is the option here? Braum, the last of the really top tier kind of defensive melee supports.
I think maybe you go with the Braum.
Oh, there's a lot to find. And we have to just remember how big the stakes are here, how much a single decision matters in draft, because being a first seed, you're looking at your opposition, things are way easier. You come in as second, you're fighting Cloud9, you're fighting EDG, you're fighting G-Rex. No one wants to be in that spot. Ooh, utility, the option for Supermassive, replicating some of what they'd get from the Varus, having a reliable engage, but now G2 can take the Braum, make it more difficult for Ashe to find those priority targets with the arrow.
Also, as a Blade of the Ring Ruin King user, has a very good laning phase, heavy bully, has good setup for ganks if they want to try and attack Hjarnan. Not to mention that Ashe, if you get on top of her, which they will be able to do if they take a Rakan, can get blown up, but if you dodge out on CC, does have very high DPS, given the fact that the way her crit interacts with her passive.
And in the 2 seconds you looked away to make that point, they did lock in Akali as well, Spawn.
Yeah.
And it feels like we're set up for another explosive game. Can GBM do it one more time? Does he just take the Zillion here?
I mean, you have Zillion, you have Galio, you have many ways to be able to shut down this pick. So I don't think you necessarily have to panic. I once again think that you just go towards the Braum and just allow them to have some form of stability in the bottom lane.
A lot of potential there, too. Very easy for a jungler to come to that lane with the concussive blows and the Ashe slow, so maybe more pressure on Stomage. And now we enter the second phase, and you have to assume Supermassive are going to take the Xayah off the board, just make that combo a little less lethal on the bottom side. And if they ban the Jhin, too, it puts Wonder, not Wonder, but Hjarnan, rather, in a position where he has to play a hyper carry again.
I think you ban the Kai'Sa, actually, just because if they're going to go on an all-out dive comp, you know, maybe something like a Nocturne comes out, and they're just like, we're going to rush the backline, given the fact that they've got an Ashe. The Kai'Sa therefore can't go with them. And I think that Kai'Sa's greatest strength is, yes, she's a hyper carry, but her mobility in team fights, you know, the invisibility, also with the ultimate being able to dart around, makes her very elusive, very hard to track. Someone like an Aatrox really is just a sitting duck to be devoured by that 80 carry. So would like to see them get away from it. Hjarnan has had a couple of okay performances.
See if you can replicate that here. Xayah banning and now Supermassive taking their time on the second ban.
The only reason you wouldn't ban Kai'Sa here is because of range. But they do ban it. But I was going to say the one argument is that Ashe is going to significantly outrange Kai'Sa and can try and just bully the lane. However, obviously they don't think the trade-off is worth it.
Sandra now taken away. Supermassive get the first pick as to what they want to go for here in the second phase. Galio, one of the remaining solid options into the Akali if they want to give it to GBM. Also puts GBM in a position where he bears a little bit less of the damage burden for the team.
And you can go Galio here, just given the fact that you know what the solo laners are, so you're not going to get surprised with a counter pick. And it will allow you to hide Stone-Aged jungler. And we haven't seen a jungler come out yet. Jankos has been performing very well today. And I think that you do want to have the flexibility of being able to go scaling versus scaling or try and avoid some early game aggression. So we'll see exactly what the pick is here for Jankos. You know, it's a squishy-ish lineup. Wonder obviously going to be quite tanky as he gets towards his stone plate, but in the mid game, certainly more bruiser heavy going to come out of him. So we'll see whether Jankos has to fill that void.
Hjarnan, though, back on utility as most of the carry options have been taken off. Doesn't want to opt for something like the Tristana. Instead, settles for a little bit more engage option. little bit more safe damage in a team fight with that curtain call in the form of Jhin. And G2 put Jankos right back onto that Talia. It looks like Olaf is going to be the priority, something a little bit more reliable from Jankos as far as we've seen.
Yeah, all right. And all of a sudden, you know, you can open up some picks. Wouldn't hate to see a Gragas coming out here. Has got the ability to get into the back line. You know, I also think that there might be some merit towards a Nocturne to try and shut down some of the big engages that are going to come out. And I think that the team fighting comp is going to be there for Supermassive, regardless of the case of which of the two they go for. And the pressure is going to be on G2 to be able to accelerate the top side of the map while keeping Hjarnan Wadid in a situation where they still have that utility to play out the team fight.
And the early game feels like it's going to count so much for both these teams, especially for Jankos, as we see the composition now rounded out with the Gragas. What does Stomaj have to do in the early game here, Spawn?
I do think if you remove nameplates right now and just gave this draft to two different teams, the red side team would be happy. So I think that Supermassive have done a very good job of setting up some pretty clear win conditions. I think that Stomage's job right now is to be able to guarantee topside vision. If Wonder gets himself an advantage, there is going to be a lot of trouble.
Spawn. That's a Kali in the top lane for Wonder. 20 seconds mean there's no time to swap, and you have to remember that G2 has two carry threats. This time, Perk's gonna take a little bit more of a backseat, get that favorable matchup in the mid lane against GBM. The Urgot so oppressive against tankier choices, and Wonder on the top side. We've seen him expose Fab Fabulous in the previous game. He's going to look to do it again if that Akali gets ahead.
Mission changes. Build tank on GBM, camp the absolute heck out of Wonder, and try and shut this Akali down. We've already seen that there appears to be a skill discrepancy in the top lane Dracos. If this Akali goes up 40 CS, a turret and 2 kills, as we saw the first time these teams played, this is going to be like very difficult to shut down.
People are going to ask if it's a replay of the game before it, if we have another Akali taking off like that. Everything on the line for both these teams. They have both made it through into the next stage, but first seed and second seed critical to finding success, to making it further in the 2018 World Championship. And still smiles on the faces of the Supermassive support staff, maybe ready for the swap for the Akali in the top lane. And now, Spawn, the final game of the day, the final game of the play-in group stage. Here we go, G2 versus Supermassive. Who will reign supreme?
And I think that GBM has a lot of pressure on him now, because Urgot in the mid lane is one of those lanes that if you get rolling, can just turn ganks as a nuisance, is surprisingly tanky, and has a short lane to play around. At the same time, I think Hjarnan and Wadid have one mistake in this laning phase before it turns to disaster, just given the fact that they're going up against so much CC on the bottom side of the map. So really looking towards that to swing. And that might give Wonder the freedom to be able to, you know, try and pick on this Aatrox and see what he can get done. At the same time, if Fab Fabulous can shut down the Akali, and Akali without farm, not all that useful. Ooh. That's an annoying ability.
Yes, yes it is. Good old Purge. That quick 3 auto attacks to cut through wards doesn't do a ton of damage to champions without the shotgun legs, but of course lets them shred through the ward, deny a bit of vision on a Supermassive. They place one more. Now Hjarnan not quite so fortunate, the Jhin. Pretty hard capped on the attack speed. And Perk's in the mid lane, you gotta respect that. Final game, a lot of stakes on him. He's still spamming emotes. He's still ready to go.
But I think this shows how much G2 values the first seed. You know, this is probably a curveball that you're hoping that you can save for a best of 5. But not going to be the case now. They have to burn it, you know, in this tiebreaker game versus Supermassive. But it's one of those things that, you know, they would have loved to have been able to keep this trap card for later on in the Worlds Tournament.
Now everyone's going to know, so maybe giving something up, but not the same as giving up and going down to second seed. So putting everything on the table here for G2. Fab Fabulous doing what he can at the level 1. Of course, Akali, pretty terrifying level 1 with the passive, but Aatrox just as respectable with the 3 stacks of that Q.
Apparently Fab Fabulous disagrees, because he's not even challenging for the laning phase.
Doesn't even want to do it.
Doesn't want anywhere near it, but did gets tagged up. Nothing really going to be happening in this bottom lane. And Jhin is a great champion for Hjarnan, because if what we're saying is that he has, you know, some problems during the lane, can fall behind, and can't necessarily be relied upon to hard carry some of these fights, well, Jhin has a very solid laning phase, has managed to pick up the push here. Actually a very nice scout coming out of Zaynot, spots out exactly where Jankos is and checks a couple of camps as well. But we saw that he was able to navigate the lane quite successfully with it earlier today. And also was a meaningful contributor into the late game team fight. So I like the fact that this is something G2 is now starting to lean upon. I wonder if it's something that teams will eventually start to look at.
Limit the utility options. Gragas, though, here on the bottom side. Walking forward, level 3 is there. The heal already being burned. The movement speed, the flash traded there. Wadid now going to look to leap out to safety, but he gets stunned up before he can do anything. Flash and dash out. TP burned. Supermassive going to back off without a kill, but a lot of summoners taken down there. Yeah, big TP uses there out of perks. Obviously still thinks that he can win the laning phase without having to rely on it. But double summoner spells burnt from Hyanan, as well as a flash from Wadid, is going to be a big deal, because we already mentioned, you know, there's so much CC that's going to come out of Stomage and Snowflower. So if they ever have to push up to the turret again, it's not going to be easy to avoid. And they really want to capitalize on that as well. Now they're going to land a bit of a taunt here, continue to trade with perks, but so difficult. Because you can see, Greg is falling a bit behind in the CS department. That gank does cost him a little bit overall. Will do what he can to catch up to the level 4 of Jankos. Of course, backing for those boots early on, the Predator is going to be clutch, especially in this tanky mid lane matchup where both targets are going to struggle to get out in some of those games. Yeah, absolutely. At the same time, if I could trade, you know, 40 seconds worth of time for 3 summoner spells on the bottom side of the map, I probably make that trade a lot of the time. So I think Stomage did go for the right call. But it's just something you have to keep your eye on, because we saw earlier that even though Ascension were able to pick up kills versus this G2 lineup, they weren't necessarily able to keep up in the gold department. They weren't able to translate any of it into CS advantages, into turret advantages, and G2 just kept eking them out in that situation. So you don't want something similar to happen here if you are Supermassive. Jankos now invading on the camp here. GBM is available in there. Stomage is going to take that one away. Jankos still threatening though, still posturing. He can't commit. He sees that there's no mana in the pool of the mid laner, so wants to threaten, wants to get a greater advantage in the jungle and limit what Stomage can do. Yeah, got none in the camps, however. Stomage able to pick everything up there. Potentially going to be a dive on the cards if they are able to get the Akali level 6, but certainly not there at the moment, so Jankos might just have to go towards farming. Fabio's taking a lot there. Krugs in his line, and now Gragas on the bottom side, though. Pretty happy with the exchange, but level 6, as you mentioned, is going to be a critical point. If Akali hits it before the Aatrox. Oh, they're actually rotating up perks. This is a very nice map movement. They know that GBM is late to the play, and Fabulous still no toward that push. Now trying to dash to safety. Perks the disdain, not quite going to connect, trying to pull him back, trying to bring him under the tower. Perks hitting level 6, gonna back off, and First Blood now dropping. Supermassive, desperate to find a response. TP is being burned. GBM here on the bottom side. Hasn't got 6 though. Wonder is, though, have to be careful. Wonder just telling them to back off. Just gonna be a play in favor of G2. 1.3k gold lead already into the game. And it's just the little things, rotating to a lane without level 6, completing that teleport. The dive is just never going to happen without Stomage having his flash available. On the flip side, you see already a 15 CS lead generated for Perks. He's going to have his teleport back up and available for the next one of those plays, and Supermassive just losing touch with this early game. Trying to do what they can to snowball their bottom side, but meanwhile the solo laners are suffering. You mentioned the CS difference in the mid lane, the top lane as well, massively in favor of G2. And we'll take a look one more time at this play. Fabulous. Not really any options here. And the problem I have with the play from Fabulous is not really knowing exactly how many creeps he was away, but he approached a brush because he thought 2 members could be there. If that's the case, they're either there or not. Fight for your level 6 underneath the creep wave. Maybe then GBM has time to be able to teleport in, turn a 2v3 dive. And sadly now with the solo lane set up for success after those early plays, Perks with the CS lead, of course, Wonder on the top side with an assist. Jankos is free to come to the bottom side of the map and stop Supermassive from using a man advantage here. Everything in this early game right now looking great for G2 Esports. And now, honestly, in the team fights, Jankos' job just becomes catch as many of the CC that is thrown out as possible. You know, be that front line, ignore Ash's arrow, and then just be able to run her down. You can see he's playing with such freedom around the map right now. Has that level 6, going to team up with his top laner to invade the top side of the jungle. And Stomage is starting to run out of options. They have all of his camp on cooldown. And he just doesn't have a winning lane, really, to play toward. And credit to Stomage, he doesn't get caught by that. He sees mid lane getting pushed in, and he knows what's going to happen, which means Jankos and Perks each grab one of his jungle camps, splitting the spoils of that mid lane pressure between them. A lot of players may have gone down there, but that is really just the silver lining on an otherwise very gray cloud.
And I mean, 1,700 gold at 7 minutes is a very significant lead for this stage of the game. Perkz showing that even though this is a flex pick, it's something that he is practiced on. GBM still going towards potentially a damage-heavy build as well. So we'll see how the rest of this, early game plays out. But right now, you would say 30 CS top lane, 25-ish CS mid lane. Job done for Jankos, really, in the early game.
Once again, another fantastic early performance. When Jankos does well, it feels like G2 does well. Continues to be the case, and Wonder, I think unsurprisingly, continuing to extend this lead. Fabulous just knows he can't really approach to trade with the Akali. Missing the 5-point strike, though, does give him a bit of comfort, and we check in at the other lanes. Bot lane in the favor of G2 now. They're finally able to get push pressure. Even after all of what Stomage did on the bottom side, it just does not amount to much as Jankos is now free to take pretty much everything across the map.
So now you have your Predator level 6 gank from Stomage as he gets a flashback available. He has to get into one of these lanes and he has to impact it. He's going to go back. He's building up towards Red Smite as well as the magic damage jungle item. So going to pack a punch at this stage of the game when no magic resistance has been picked up. I don't think he should go towards mid lane. That is a lost cause already. But if he is able to get into either the top or bottom lane, the longer lanes, the layering of CC should be significant. Potentially could net him an advantage. You can see Jankos reads the play, gets there early, lays down his vision, takes away the Scuttle Crab, and is going to be happy to continue to try and assist his lanes to accumulate their own advantages.
Luckily for Stomage, they have bot side pressure, but it means that their bottom lane is vulnerable to gank. So Woody going to find the engage immediately. Braum needs to make his way out to safety, but he's locked down for so long. Snowflower now running. Stomage trying to find something back. An unstoppable Olaf, not the target that Stomage wanted. Both sides now going to back off.
And one more time, 4 summoner spells burn on the bottom side of the map. G2 just so decisive. Perkz rotating immediately. Jankos willing to commit to that gank. And one more time, they're just attacking the strong point with their jungler and allowing, their solo lanes, their strength on G2 to exploit their own advantages.
The way they built it up is a fantastic look for G2. It's all about how can Supermassive come back now. You talked about the level 6, the window, the opportunity. Jankos spotted it out, as you mentioned, and now we're looking for what else can remain. Where will G2 misstep? Will they get overconfident with all these leads on the laners?
Because now the play is so risky, right? You have no flash heal, exhaust or flash in the bottom lane. They actually might look for a play onto Perkz here. Nope, not going to be the case. So what I was going to mention is, you want to make the play bottom lane, right? But because you have no summoner spells, you're like, if we get counter ganked, our 2 strongest members fall down at this stage of the game, we're done. That's nearly game over. So all of a sudden, Stomage is like, okay, so I can gank top lane, negative 30 CS discrepancy, no real damage item picked up, not to mention it's Akali, one of the most slippery champions in the game. Can I gank mid lane? No Rod of Ages, no Boots 2 going to be the case, and the shortest lane in the game for Perkz to be able to retreat to. So really running out of good options. And I mean, we're only 11 minutes into the game.
An absolute domination, 2K gold lead. Stomage, though, doing a good job to check G2 on this Ocean Drake. They know how much damage it can deal. Fabulous still fighting back as best he can.
Good trade.
Definitely the case. Wonder really wanted to finish that Gunblade to get a bit more sustain in this early lane. Fabulous can't get too aggressive, though. They call it near impossible to lock down unless Wonder makes a mistake. Supermassive going to do what they can to take control of bottom side, but they may have been caught out. Snowflower now on the retreat. Rakan once again going in. The chain CC is there. Fear beyond death. Snowflower going to get pulled right back, and the Galio wall is too little too late.
Just telegraph plays, and Jankos reading the Supermassive lineup like a book. He knows they want to continually try and visit this lane, but it is just not working. Telegraph plays maybe needs to come from deeper through the jungle, maybe needs to get that Fabulous down there as well, but Supermassive, 3,000 gold down now.
A brutal early game, to be certain. Fabulous at least finally comfortable, do a little bit up against Wonder. But always nervous about the potential for an all-in, and G2 taking their prize. The Ocean Drake going to fall in their favor. Lovely for a Jhin, an Urgot, and an Olaf to have. Lessen that dependency on the blue buff. It's Stomage, sadly for him, this man didn't even get a chance to really, he got one gank on the bottom side before his solo lanes collapsed. A difficult game to be certain.
And Wonder is that confident that he just burns a teleport to get back into the top lane. He knows that the bottom lane has been shut down, that there is no Ash Arrow, there is no Braum ultimate available, so nothing really going to happen down there. Burns the cooldown, he's already up. Nearly 50 CS if he grabs this creep wave. working towards that Gunblade, and this Akali in the top lane. Raz said it best. In the LPL, if you can flex Akali, it is so much more powerful than having to run it into these supportive mid laners, you know, like the Galio, the Zillion, the Karmas. Well, G2 showing that they have worked on that part of their game and are able to add it to their repertoire.
And focusing and fanning out the options that could have been flexed, but you know Supermassive aren't responding. They're not putting that Galio on the top side to match. Can't afford to take that. Now they're putting these unfavorable matchups, and of course, as you mentioned before, we have to highlight it, the individual solo lane talent for G2 set up for success and showing us exactly what they can do when they're given these kind of advantages.
So I think now that you have to take stock of the map if you are the Supermassive lineup, and you have to start thinking, how do we rotate around? Actually, there's going to be a fight.
You have to hold that thought because Perks is coming in. Fear Beyond Death is available. He's looking for Zeitnot. He's looking for Snowflower. Flash hit. The Disdain is going to be sidestepped, but there's just no option. They're just absolutely deleted. Pulled back once again. G2 just destroying Supermassive.
And when you're able to push in a Galio and grab so much control over the bottom side river, GBM right now can't even clear out the wave, cannot match Perks, who is now 2-0-2. And I was going to say, you have to start trying to get unfair fights, you know, try and pick it up when you think that they're handing off a blue buff or when they're looking to maybe pressure around a Rift Herald, but G2 aren't giving them any of that. They're going to crack open the map right now. And they're going to start now being able to just race around at top speed. Jankos with so much pressure.
And this is terrifying. Up against a fed Olaf, Urgot, Akali, even the Jhin now starting to build up a decent lead. Finally going to catch up and match on that first item when he gets a chance to back. Stomage, though, going to try to get something back with the Herald, and Fabulous doing better in this laning phase than some might have expected. Wonder, though, not really giving him a second chance, not burning any cooldowns unnecessarily. Still has the flash, and Supermassive now positioning around the top side of the map. Will we see a larger skirmish here?
I would love to get on the hype train, Dracos, because he's 50 CS down. He's won a couple of trades, but really it's going to come down to how much damage does he do to an 80 carry versus how much does Wonder do. And right now my money's on Wonder. Jankos looking for something.
Indeed, now going Wonder. Snowflower going to leap right over the wall. Good piece of news for the Supermassive lineup. They do manage to secure the Rift Herald, but take a look at this bottom play and things still look a little bit grim.
Yeah, and look how early Perks is rotating down. Only now just spotted on Vision. Able to get in behind them, and did just engages from a country mile away. Doesn't even have to burn a flash for that. 2 hops, a battle dance, and just a charming fellow all around. Guarantees a couple of kills.
And that reaction is exactly how you feel when you're an Urgot that's far ahead. You're going to push the R button, and you just get to reel him in, Spawn. Watch him drop. 4-0 the kill score. Stomaged. It's sad because he finally thinks he has an opportunity and he's standing right on the ward, and G2 just denying every single play.
Oh.
Fabulous, we said he was doing okay earlier in the trades. He's not doing so great in the all-ins. Wonder hunting for blood. Hey, you're going to respawn. I'll just kill you again. 2 times Fabulous going to drop here up against Wonder. Perks coming in just in case he needs him, but that's the solo kill for the top laner of G2.
Certainly wasn't. You can see Perks was like, give me the kill. Wonder said, go back to your lane, take a turret or something right now. This one's on me. And the whole G2 lineup really looks like they are coming together. They want another fight.
Somebody trying to get something. He's not even getting a chance to push a button. There's too much damage. Now Snowflower just running for his life. Zeitnot's got an Olaf in his face. Jankos, though, on the retreat. Perks on the backside. In comes the Galio. It buys them a brief respite, but not nearly enough. Retreating there as that play turns against them.
And they're 7,000 gold up at 16 minutes into the game. The difference in day 1 to day 2 of these group stages for so many of these teams is just night and day. For G2, they were caught off guard. They said they didn't feel like they had the best read on the meta. Well, right now it seems like they have tidied up all of those mistakes. And this is the G2 that teams were afraid of, that were like, do not get this team in our group because they can do damage. As an organization, have been able to do it before.
And when you look at this G2 draft, it's not surprising to see them be successful if you are a G2 faithful, because so many comfort picks are coming out with these legendary on engaged champions. Kjarnan at best when on these utility options outside of course, the Heimerdinger. Perks.
He's pretty utility.
Yeah. Of course, Wonder and Perks on their respective carry options. Urgot, a little bit more of a bruiser, but Jankos on the Olaf as well. Everything seems slated for success for G2 in the draft. And it's a similar story for Supermassive. They got a lot of options, but it just feels like G2 taking away so many of those comfort picks has just crippled what Supermassive want to do.
And I think they just had a really good read on what the bottom lane wanted to do. And the bottom lane had to kind of go to the second tier of that. Wonder now. could come under some fire. They decide maybe he can 2v1, so let's not go for it. Because, you know, when you want to play Varus, Tahm, Kench, you know, that's what the analyst desk was saying is the ideal lane right now for Supermassive to be able to take. Ashe Braum is literally just the second tier down of that. You know, both defensive supports, both utility catch-heavy mages that have good laning phases. But even the bottom lane of G2 right now, up 20 CS, and they've had a ton of help, don't get me wrong, but that's what it is, just rotating around in a team game.
Wonder may just get caught out here. Nice dash out, though, just burning those cooldowns to make it to safety, and a lot of resources committed from Supermassive in the mid lane.
He also stopped the Herald and didn't burn a flag. So just showing the strength of Akali there with a mini stun, with the ability to then dance back into a shroud and get out over the top. Good fun.
You know, there's the give him an inch and they'll take a mile. Well, Supermassive are not even getting an inch.
That must have been a misplay.
I think so. You have to assume he's got like sweeper. Yeah, I feel like he just wanted to sweep out in case she went into the shroud, and it's unfortunate. You can't afford those small mistakes. They compound over the course of the game, and it's
and that's what happens when you're under pressure, when you feel like you're continually on the back foot, when you're playing the game on their terms. You think you have a catch, you think you have the right play, all of a sudden you've stunned yourself for a couple of seconds. Shelly's trying to make her way out of the void.
Put the genie back in the lamp. Not allowed to come free to try to give a greater advantage to the side of Supermassive. An 8K gold lead for G2 spawn, double ocean, everything going in their favor. The Rift Herald even taken away from the opposition. Feels like we had an incredible upsets early in the day, but we have had an immense number of one-sided games. Teams really, when the pressure is on here in the play-in stage, showing us their best form.
And I think that's an important part to highlight at Worlds, is that you're going to get in these high-pressure situations, and some teams historically have been able to stay the course. You know, the Gen G/Samsung that weren't necessarily all that dominant in Korea, but when it came to the world stage, were able to consistently rise to the occasion. Pressure did not seem to impact them. Then you have historically, you know, like the LGD, EDG of examples of the opposite of that. So domestically dominant, touted as, you know, the career slayers back then and not able to replicate similar feats. I have to say that nerves are playing a big impact on this, and being able to consistently replicate your best play or close to it is an important skill, and right now looks like G2 is able to do that.
Now Fabulous is just trying to make his way out. Wonder, is he going to go for the retreat here? He knows Gragas is coming, he sees the Predator icon. I don't know if Stomage wants this. Goes forward. Now he's going to use the cast to try to knock him out of the shroud, but just knocks him right back in. Wonder now on the retreat. Trying to run him down. Wonder with no flash available. The flash forward just wants to secure it. That's the shutdown. Big play coming in from Stomage.
Certainly is. Stops a perfect game, so not going to happen there for G2 anymore. That's a first kill picked up. Now they're looking for some more arrows. Kicks a goal.
Wadid spams the emote.
6 points for those in Australia. 1 for everyone else in the world.
There you go. Little sports breakdown for people at home.
But that's what they have to be able to do. They have to be able to attack a side lane. Now this is hopefully going to lead to a Fabulous turret. He can start getting a little bit more control. No, doesn't want it. Not going to waste the tempo.
I guess doesn't want to take the risk. Not sure as to where G2 are.
Well, it's not just that. It's like, okay, I just got a kill. I'm maybe sitting on a little bit of gold. Baron is a real objective when we have no control over that area. If I sit there and whack the turret, they can just walk there, start it up, and there is no pressure of me having that teleport in. Turret's going to fall down anyway. So let me go back, get my shop, you know, reset the map, and get a quicker redeploy than what I would have been able to do if I just sat down there and took the extra wave.
Yeah, lose out a bit on the local gold, but overall just a safer play to make. And we've already said it, Supermassive can't really afford to make any more mistakes. They're at the threshold here with G2 where, you know, a couple picks leads to a Baron almost guaranteed for G2, and that's very easy closeout from there. Not a ton of wave clear options on the side of Supermassive. They don't have a control mage in the mid lane. They have this Galio. The Ashe can do a little bit, but we'll find their backs against the wall quite quickly. Something goes south here. For now, though, trying to focus on taking out Jankos. Unstoppable as he is going to retreat, but it is an ulti traded for an ulti there.
And I like that if you're able to burn Jankos' ultimate, that means if a team fight does start up and you're able to stun the Olaf at the start of it, you might be able to get something. That's Gas Arrow.
Going into the middle of the team, just wants to get the fight started off, getting a little bit impatient here, and he's going to get knocked back to the middle of everyone. Now Fat Fabulous coming in, GBM looking for the block. Wadid says, I do not want this, and is going to back out, goes right back in, and now Fat Fabulous is on the hunt, wants to take him down. He's going to flash out to safety. Big overstep from Perks. Ooh, Wadid now has to run, tries to sidestep in, and is just going to get dunked by Fat Fabulous.
And all of a sudden, Supermassive saying, we can take a couple of fights. That was just Perks going crazy aggressive for no reason. Sped into the lineup, 1v5 style, and gets shut down. And that's just a reset on the map. Anytime that you can grab just farming up a little bit more when you have a fantastic team fight comp is going to be appreciated. And Akali, whether it's top or mid, has the same problems in those team fights. Perks just goes soloed here.
Paying the iron price for this play.
Yeah, it certainly was. Wadid on the side is kind of pinging that he's on his way, wasn't able to get into the fight. And then you can say Perks says, I'm dead, don't try and save me. And Wadid said, no, I think I got you. I don't got you. And then he says, okay, I think I'm out. And he says, I'm not out.
Oh, and now it just continues. Jankos may be the one caught out. Zeitnot wants to get this play off, but Perks is still in the backline. The flash over the wall from Zeitnot. Hjarnan now on the retreat. Perks into the middle of the entire team. 3 members locked up. Wonder's looking to clean house. 2 stopwatches immediately used. GBM needs to make it out. The quick taunt. Snowmage's trying to get it to safety. Zeitnot still alive. He wants to kill Wonder. They're slowly peeling back, but here comes the curtain call. Zeitnot dead in the eyes of Hjarnan, but they will not find it on the retreat. Zeitnot just wants to get something, but G2 are simply too far ahead. He's running. He's trying, but it will not matter. He will drop in the face of G2. Hjarnan grabs Snowflower, and the fight is won.
Yeah, and where I'm from, that's just called a gold lead team fight. You could see that the whole of the G2 lineup, one at a time, trickle in, just run at their counterparts. But they're just too tanky. They are too far ahead. And now they turn their eyes towards the Baron.
A desperate attempt spawn, and it looked good for Supermassive, but they do not have the stats to go toe-to-toe with G2. That may have been the last-ditch effort, and it did not work in their favor. G2 eyes on the Baron. This will go down all but uncontested. However, a TP comes into the side. Can't do a lot here. GBM, what is he doing? Getting locked up, chain CC down. He just wanted to try to find a way back in the game, but it's not going to happen. The sacrificial lamb just running in to die. Hjarnan grabs another one. Baron drops for G2.
Certainly does. They're going to go for the reset. That death out of GBM not going to cost them all that much. As we take another look at this team fight, remember, Jankos still has ultimate, still is quite safe on the back end, burns the flash over the wall, but without Jankos, this is kind of a 4v5. Wonder, one more time, very squishy. Gets chunked out, still gets some good damage down, but then you just see Perks walk into everyone, and he's just not taking damage. They can't do anything to him. Zeitnot doesn't even want to hit him, and 5 versus 3 is always going to be a tough team fight. Snowflower kind of goes for the hero play, but it's not going to work. And as I said, this weird crab of death just marches forward into the play.
That's a spaghetti western crab of death, sir. That is the high noon skin. And Wadid, you can see a smile on his face because he sees them. He knows that they won the play. And the reason that they can play that team fight and come out so far ahead, even if there's some small mistakes, even if Supermassive are playing well, is the gold lead that they built up from that early game, from Jankos snowballing those solo lanes, setting them up for success, and that transferring to the rest of the map. G2 look nigh unstoppable right now. 10K in the lead, Spawn.
And the worst situation is when you cannot answer 2 waves of your 1-3-1, because that means that your only option is to force mid. And once again, this team comp, even though it probably excels in the 1-3-1, doesn't necessarily have bad team fighting either. So G2 have multiple avenues to be able to close out this game. You can see right now that they are sticking to opening up the map and just protecting their AD carry with their jungler and support. And really, Supermassive are going to have to make a play in the next couple of minutes, otherwise their base is going to be broken. I would like to see it actually be made onto Perks, because he seems to be the one member of the G2 lineup that will play up in your face and maybe a bit disrespectfully. Here it goes.
Perks now, debating. But Wonder sees the second multiple members are committed. The second Perks spots that out. Wonder pushes in for the side of the tower. That Shroud's going to keep him safe. Supermassive don't know where to go. They're being pushed and pulled across the map beautifully by G2. Going to take an incredibly confident engage on a lone member of G2, maybe the 3 in the middle if they can find it, from Supermassive to bring this one back.
And they just haven't pulled the trigger, and this cannon is just going to open up the base. There's nothing Fat Fabulous can do against it. So now their window for a play is even smaller, because if it does not work immediately, Wonder just takes everything.
Breaking the inhibitor, Spawn. We need to see it. Supermassive get second seed or die trying. That has to be the attitude. They need to get something done here, but Wonder just does so much damage to Fabulous. Jankos breaking in the top side, and it looks like G2 are not giving a single opportunity over to the side of Supermassive.
They've just starved him out. They've played it so calmly, so collected. You know, they look for an engage, all of a sudden Garden forcing them back, and just nothing they can do.
Current call used just to keep those two members safe. Snare not going to connect, but Hjarn is now pushing in this wave. Perks is ready on the flank. Wonder is here as well. Ultimate off of cooldown. Will they go for the dive, or will they just let this cannon minion slowly chip away? And Supermassive, can you find an opening? Perks ready to walk into your backline at a moment's notice. This is disastrous, and Fabulous looking for an individual play, looking to keep Wonder away while the rest of the team can go to work, but it's just not going to happen.
And G2 can actually just recall, because they just took 5 turrets worth of gold. They're fine with how that play just worked out. They're going to be able to go back, you know, top off the item builds, make sure that they're exerting every amount of pressure onto them. One more inhibitor left up and available, and they'll just march 2 waves of super creeps in every lane into the base.
And you have stopwatches on the Akali, on the Jhin. You can't pick those members off. You have a QSS on the Jhin as well. You've got a Medjai's on the Akali too. G2 taking the item victory lap at this point, knowing that the next team fight for them is easy. Miraculous execution, maybe some missteps as well is what it would take for Supermassive to come out on top in the next fight. G2 no doubt set to close out the game. 15K gold lead.
This would take a Cloud9-esque team fight coming out of Supermassive for them to be able to turn this. They do have some of the tools, but the items just aren't there. They're going to be relying so much of the kit of the champions.
And the Ashe is not a Kai'Sa. That is not, you give her enough time, she can work through any lineup, but she's not going to get enough time. The defensive itemization just there to keep Zeitnot alive is not going to give them the damage they need to cut through the more vulnerable, or the tankier members rather, of G2. Desperation stand now. Final inhibitor in the eyes of Hjarnan. Pushing forward, using Perks as the body block, the wall. Wonder can find a way.
Perks is so tanky. He has like 3 tank items at this stage, and you can see that they're now looking for the fight.
Wonder now trying to walk his way into the back line. Eyes set on Zeitnot. They know he's the big damage source. Wonder now pulled back in the middle team. Chain CC locked up. Galio going to try to find the re-engage, but there's the Zhonya's. The final fight breaks out. Fabulous trying to keep Perks away from the carry lineup, but Hjarnan on a rampage. GBM untouched, but Wonder does not care. He goes in for Zeitnot. He wants to reset it. He wants to delete that Ashe, and he's going to get it. Easy clean outs for G2. The massive gold lead, insurmountable for Supermassive, and G2 Esports will take first seed in their group.
And in the end, they do it very convincingly, Dracos. They shake off the day 1 jitters and are able to very handedly close out Supermassive. And once again, it's the experienced members of this lineup, Perks, Wonder, Jankos, having fantastic performances. Supermassive just telegraphed that bottom lane play over and over again. The G2 read them like a book and were able to just close that game out very cleanly.
And just have to give it up for G2. You can hear the crowd now applauding them. Well-deserved first seed. Many were skeptical after day 1 if it could come through for this lineup when they look so scattered, when they look so lost against Supermassive. But today, it feels like they set themselves up for success in the draft. They took away from Supermassive what made